Yo, what's poppin', Rush Nation? Welcome to episode 92 of 5 Yard College. It's been a little while. We can only apologise for that. Stuff has got in the way, and between me and Ash, we've had a busy couple of weeks, but we've managed to carve out some time to get back in your ears. Ash, how you doing, man? How was your weekend? How are you enjoying this sunny weather that we've got at the moment?
Yeah, weekend was very good. The weather's been lush, making the most of it. I'm sure we'll get some more rain soon. We had loads of thunderstorms in that week before last, I think. So definitely been making the most of the weather this weekend.
Apparently, it's going to be hotter than Jamaica this weekend, so make of
Wow.
that what you will. But
Yeah.
it sounds hot. I don't know whether it's Jamaica's cold period at the moment, so we're being lulled in, but I don't know. I don't know. It's Ash and I have had this show in the pipework for about a week and a half now. So we did have a new segment. However, because it is so far past when we prepped this doc, and
Yeah.
we weren't sure when we were going to get to it, we have binned the news for today. So those of you that don't like to sit down at 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock and get the news inside you and keep up to date, this episode is most definitely for you. Ash, today we are diving into the top college players of 2023 that are draft eligible, because obviously there's players
Yes.
that are not going to be draft eligible that are pretty good.
Yeah. I mean,
So we're covering off every position here. How many players do we have in total?
a lot. I, I've done all the key positions. I've done all the key positions and the top three of each. I've put some notable players. We won't go into detail on those, but we will mention those players. And then this is essentially my top three at each position at the moment. Is probably how we need to look at it. I think a lot of it will be in line with what other people think at the moment, but this is purely mine. So you'll hear some names in our notable players that you might go, well, how are they not in the top three? So that's just a quick disclaimer to start with. And also, I thought it's better that we focus on the 2023 draft eligible players for the time being, because as you said, if we did every single player, there would definitely be people that we miss out on, and we would be here for a very long time. So we'll have a look ahead to next year's draft class, but players that are definitely going to contribute massively this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Ash, you don't have to apologise for this being your list. I mean, it is our podcast, so people are here to listen to you and me. It's not like we're CBS or anything like that. People
True.
aren't coming here for those takes. They're coming here for our witty banter and English college football takes. So, and
That's
I
very true.
respect your knowledge and judgment enough to have not changed this whatsoever. A, because, like I said, I respect you, and B, because I just didn't. So I think if I disagree strongly on top three, then I'll chime in. But
Yeah.
again, it's mostly going to be, once we get past the skill positions, it's pretty much going to be your knowledge compiling this list and me reading some names, really.
Fair enough.
But this is a really good exercise before the season, because I know for me that once the draft's out the way, and that takes up so much of a large portion of our knowledge base, especially if you go into watching the NFL or fantasy football. It's only the people coming into the draft that you watch at the end of the season. So some of the names that we talk about today, you might have forgotten them because A, they got injured last year, B, they weren't really relevant, but they had a couple of guys ahead of them, or C, they were on a different team. So the way it's sort of flipped now, I know that's definitely the fact for one of the running backs, is these guys are now people that are going to be relevant hugely for the draft eligibility side of it into the coming season. And it's good
Yeah.
for us to get those names out of the way now, so then we can focus on some other names, like you said, of next season and the seasons after eligibility. It's just a way of increasing your knowledge set of players in the college game, especially if you're new to it or a casual viewer, that we can, we're not going to dive into Bryce Young's stats throughout his entire career. We're just going to be mentioning that Bryce Young is our number one quarterback. If he wasn't, what are you doing? There's bound to be some clickbait and some trope out there as to people who have CJ Stroud. But we'll get into the quarterbacks in a minute. But what I'm trying to say is, this is for me a good exercise in learning names before we get into the season, so that you're not blindsided by someone turning up out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's well, we are going to start at the quarterback position because
Yes.
obviously I just mentioned it.
Where else would you start as well? the most important position as far as the majority of people are concerned.
Yeah, I think you are right. I think it would be remiss of us to go. What we should have done is started at the other end of the spectrum, though, Ash,
Yeah, true.
and gone through the names, because people are going to get through, especially if you're a fantasy player and you only want to know about the names coming through. Once you get past the offensive skill positions, you might just turn off, because we're hoping you don't, Rush Nation. But if you do, that is a shame. Yeah. We started with the cream when we should have started with the solid base of the dessert, as it were. This analogy is getting way out of hand real early.
Is, yeah.
How are we going to do this then? What do you want to do? We've got 3 players and notable guys on the list.
Yeah.
How do you want to play this?
So I think we should go 3-1 for each position, and then we'll mention the notable players after we've done the top 3.
Yep.
I think would be the best way.
Yep, that's fine. Do you want to talk about each player in turn, or do you want to give our top 3 and why they're in that order?
No, I think we should do each player in turn. So starting with the third guy on the list, which I put him here mainly for you, but at the same time, I do think it's probably a justified position. It's probably the most debated position in the quarterbacks at the moment. You've obviously got the top 2 guys who you've already mentioned, and it should be very obvious. But 3 at the moment for me is Tyler Van Dyke, Miami, who is entering his sophomore year. The reason I've put Van Dyke here is, although he is incredibly raw and we haven't seen a great deal of him, obviously last year is his first year of getting a decent amount of time on the field at Miami. What I have seen so far outweighs that rawness that he brings, and obviously we've seen players that have gone into the draft and into the NFL that have been described as raw and have realised that potential. I think with Van Dyke, you've got someone who already has a very strong arm, who's very accurate already, and he's only improving on his skills. He's also surprisingly athletic for his stature. He's 6'4", 224 pounds. So he's a bigger guy. So you would expect him to be that sort of quarterback that sits in the pocket and makes plays from the pocket. But he is not afraid to leave that pocket and gain the yards himself if needs be, if he can't see anything open. As I've already mentioned, I think he's already got an NFL arm. He can make pretty much any throw up and down the field that you want him to. The issues I have at the moment is he is probably one of the most raw prospects, especially at the quarterback position, that we'll be looking at this year. And he has shown, because of that, his inconsistency for Miami. That's something that he's going to need to improve this year for him to really cement that place as the third guy behind the other 2, because, as I say, it is a wide open competition here for the third best quarterback in this draft class, and probably I'd even say in college at the moment.
I think you're right. I think what makes it very open is the fact that the top 2 guys are not necessarily light years ahead of everybody else, but we've seen them both play to the highest level in college football. Whereas, like you said, with Tyler Van Dyke, and I think maybe one other player on the other notable players we'll get to. Apart from that, we know what the rest of the class is. You know, some of the notable names, yes, they're good college quarterbacks. Are they going to make it at the next level? Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, who are the top 2, and they're probably everybody's top 2 in one or another order, they've definitely got what it takes to make it at the next level from what we've seen so far on tape. Whereas Tyler Van Dyke, you've mentioned it, he's raw, but he's shown pretty much everything that we want to see from our quarterbacks with that mobility and size, which, yes, his inconsistencies come from his rawness. Will he declare this year? Don't know. Another thing I'm not entirely sure about at the moment is obviously Mario Cristobal, right? The guy from Oregon comes down as the Miami head coach. Yes, he's Miami's alma mater, but with the Oregon quarterbacks in the past, he hasn't necessarily been the quarterback guy. And I don't know whether he'll bring that professionalism and what we know from Oregon down to Miami. But is he going to somewhat sort of not shoehorn, maybe that's the wrong word. Is he going to stifle Van Dijk's ability possibly because of how he plays football? I don't know. There's obviously good pros and cons to having Cristobal there because of his elite coaching and his hiring and his what's the word I'm looking for, where you go out and get prospects,
recruitment.
But is he necessarily the best guy for Tyler Van Dyke? I don't know. Is Tyler Van Dyke the best quarterback he's ever had? That's up for debate. We don't know yet. I think there's so many factors into Tyler Van Dyke this year, but I think I would also have him at 3, purely because you know that I love the guy and he can't possibly be 2 or 1.
No, he can't be 2 or 1. I think 3 is a fair place for him at the moment, and if he does well this year, and I'm hoping that he does, and I am expecting him to, because as I say, he's got all the metrics, he's got all of the traits that you want from an NFL quarterback, but he's going to have to do it with, let's be honest, I'd almost say a poor supporting cast in Miami. There's maybe one weapon that you would look at this team and go, yeah, I want him to be catching the ball, and that's Will Mallory, the tight end. But apart from that, the wide receivers are good wide receivers, but they're nothing great. They've got Frank Ladson, who is a transfer from Clemson, who didn't really get any time at Clemson last year. But if he does well this year, like he did last year, it's going to be off his own back. He performed well in 2021. I think he threw for just under 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, without really an outstanding supporting cast there. So he's got everything there ready to be a good quarterback at the next level. I'm just hoping he can iron out those issues, those inconsistencies, and that he's going to have a good coach at Cristobal or the offensive coordinator that's in Miami.
Yeah, I think Tyler Van Dyke is the perfect quarterback prospect for the NFL for a good team. He's the sort of guy who is going to go mid to late first round, I think, and fall on a team that is much better than what happened to Trevor Lawrence, where you go to Jacksonville or one of these bad teams early on. I don't think he's going to go ahead. He's certainly not going to go ahead of Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, and he's going to fall a little bit further, and we could see him end up somewhere where they're in desperate need of a quarterback in a year's time because somebody's moved on, and he goes right in and starts on a pretty good team. It could be, I don't know. I think he's got that feel about him for me, Tyler Van Dyke.
Yeah, definitely.
So obviously we've got CJ Stroud. We might as well mention them together. Actually, we've got CJ Stroud at 2, and you have Bryce Young as your number 1. So rightly so. I think he is slightly more the complete package than CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I think I've given it to Young because although they are both good with their feet and on the move, Young just has that extra mobility for me. I'd say he's bordering on elite mobility for a quarterback, and that's what gives him the number 1 spot at the moment for me. On Stroud's side, again, much like Van Dyke, he's got the size, the metrics that you want in a quarterback: 6'3", 220 pounds, I believe, just under 220 pounds, and he's shown what he can do last year. He's a leader on the field. He was a leader from the offset. He can make any throw across the whole field with great accuracy. It's very rare that you see him not get the ball where it needs to be. One thing I will say about him, and like we said about Van Dyke, he did have some inconsistency at times. And again, he hasn't had a great deal of time. It's good that he was a starter and a solid starter last year, and he's going to be going into his second year at a top tier team, despite the fact, obviously, they're not going to have Wilson and Olave. That is a negative I've got. I think replacing those two is going to be hard, despite what they've still got there at wide receiver. He has lost 2 really key weapons there, plus Rutger, the tight end as well. But Stroud has got everything. It's so close between these two. But as I say, Young has just got it for me at the moment because of that, I'd say, elite level mobility, despite the fact he is relatively undersized for an NFL quarterback, 6 foot, 190 pounds. So he is on the smaller side. there is a slight worry about that at the next level when he's not got an elite leveled line in front of him. Obviously, he's going to be going 1 or 2, let's be honest. He's going to not have the best team around him to start with. That is the only slight concern I have, his size. And obviously, can he get over that at the next level against when he's in a much weaker line? Because obviously, let's be honest, Alabama are one of the top, if not the top team in the country, and they don't really come up against anyone that causes them too many issues. So it's a small concern. We've seen undersized quarterbacks go on and achieve in the NFL, and I fully expect Young to. I would be very surprised if it doesn't finish as this. Bryce Young, number 1 overall, CJ Stroud, number 2 overall, come the NFL draft. But as I say, Young has got it for me just because of what he can do with his feet. It's right up there. He's probably going to be one of the top mobile quarterbacks that we've seen come out of college in a long time. He's up there with Lamar Jackson for me in that aspect. Not quite Lamar Jackson, but he is definitely getting to that level when it comes to his mobility. And then he's got the arm and the accuracy to back that up. It's literally just his size is his only concern for me.
Here's a question. I know we've spent a long time on quarterbacks, Ash, as we tend to do with all our topics. we decide to do something quickly and it never happens. But I think this is a fairly important question to ask. Obviously, we've seen a few quarterbacks come out in the last few years who have been classed, not last year because that was a weak class, but certainly the year before with Trevor Lawrence. How good is Bryce Young compared to the quarterbacks we've seen of previous years? Because you get the teams like Jacksonville who, I'm not digging at Jacksonville here. They are perennially around that number 1 spot. If say they were at the number 1 spot again and Bryce Young was there,
yeah,
sure. Are they going to trade out because they've got Trevor? And if so, do you think? How good is Bryce Young? Would he attract a trade up from not necessarily a team that needs a quarterback, but a team that can see him being the next Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, that sort of caliber, where we know that they are elite quarterback prospects and they will bring. Although to be fair, the Ravens traded back into 32 to get Lamar, so it wasn't as if he was a. I think they did, right? That sounds.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
So are we going to see a team that perhaps doesn't need a quarterback right away, or is willing to trade away their veteran to mid-veteran quarterback to come and get Bryce Young? In a really long-winded question, how good is Bryce Young compared to recent years?
He's right there for me. He has everything, barring the size, to be one of the best we've seen, in my opinion. I think this gets thrown around a lot, and I'm going to put it out there, but I think he does have the potential and the ability to be a generational talent at quarterback. Everything I've seen from him, I just can't see anything else other than that. He's won everything out there. He puts a show on every time he's on the field, and I would argue that anybody would pick him up, barring the teams that have already got that in place. Yeah. I fully expect someone will want to go up and get Bryce Young. It would not surprise me at all.
For me, Bryce Young last year, it was his command, presence, and readability in the pocket, which was just outstanding for a player who hasn't played a full season. Last year was his first full season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to watch Bryce Young in the pocket against the best teams in the SEC, it was unbelievable, the command and the presence and the awareness he had in the pocket is just, if he can produce that to a constant level or higher going forward, it's frightening. The guy is going to be commanding the ship from the wheel at all times and is in full control. It's even with cannons going off around him, he just seems unfazed.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's going to take a lot for, like I say, it's going to take a lot for him not to be the number 1 quarterback in this draft class, and as I say, in my opinion, one of the best we've seen in a long time. He's up there with Trevor Lawrence for me, easily.
So the other notable players we've got Phil Jakovic from Boston College, Will Levis from Kentucky, Spencer Rattler, who would have been number one on this list if he'd have come back last year.
Yeah.
Spencer Rattler of now South Carolina, and Tanner McKee from Stanford. And finally, AR-15 Anthony Richardson from Florida. Now, he would be the other guy for me who could possibly be at number 3 because we've seen flashes of his brilliance. We've also seen him do some questionable things in his time at Florida. However, now he is the starter at Florida. He's got control of the Gators, and I think he's good enough to possibly push Tyler Van Dyke for number 3.
Yeah, I think so. He's got the arm that you want, and then he's got that athletic ability. It's upper level athletic ability, especially for a guy his size. So I agree with you. He's going to push that for me. As will Levis. He got a lot of hype after the draft, and because of last year, he transferred in to Kentucky and took a lot of people by surprise. But I don't think it's a one-off. I do think that Will Levis is a good talent. He is raw like Van Dyke, but do not be surprised to see him have another solid year at Kentucky and be a first-round conversation quarterback for the 2023 draft.
Which is so far away, it feels.
I know.
I mean, we're what, 90 days now till football, 80-something days till college football starts week 0, and we're already talking about the next year's draft, and we almost do college football a disservice. Right, let's move to running back. At number 3, we've got Zach Evans, TCU, and he's a junior.
He is, yeah. So Zach Evans, I think he's been somewhat overlooked last year, and for the whole build-up, really. There is one guy that everyone's talking about, unsurprisingly, but Zach Evans is a very talented running back. He's shown he's got good burst. He's good in his directional change of direction. He's got quick feet. He's also good in the passing game. He is able to track the ball in the air and bring it down while still creating those yardage after he's caught the ball. He isn't the quickest. He doesn't have that elite level speed and acceleration, but he is quick. He is good. He is quick enough in a straight line. Some of the issues that I have, and we see it more and more now in the college game of coming through, is he can be indecisive at the line of scrimmage. We like to see the hesitation. The Le'Veon Bell is the guy who obviously made it come to light, that waiting behind the line for the perfect hole and then shooting through it or escaping out on the edge. Zach Evans does it in a hesitant way, sometimes too long, and then obviously the pocket collapses or he gets hit behind the line of scrimmage. That is a slight concern that I've seen in his game. And he's not good at all in pass protection. So a 3-down role is unlikely for him at the next level unless he really ups his game this year and massively improves on his pass protection. I do not see him being a 3-down running back at the next level, but he is, as I say, he's a solid receiver and he is a very good runner that is deceptively quick in a straight line without being explosively fast.
I like that. I think 3 here from our list is fair because the 2 guys above him, I think, offer slightly more, and it is Zach Evans. Pass protection will get you in trouble in the NFL. That is the big slight on him. At 2 above him, we've got Jamaica Gibbs, Georgia Tech transfer right now. Alabama's lead back. I mean, could you transfer to a better place? No. We've seen Alabama grind out these running backs left, right, and center, and if they don't make them, they bring them in. Jamaica Gibbs, I think he could be the top running back this season if he has a good year, just because of that move.
Yeah, this is a perfect move for him and for Bama because this is one of the first years that I was looking at them and going, there isn't someone there that screams out, yes, they are a top level running back. They've got some good guys. They had some good guys. Jace McClellan, and they also had Trace Saunders. But there wasn't a top level running back that we expect to see at Bama. But Jamaica Gibbs has come in and he's going to be that. His game is very similar to Zach Evans, in my opinion, which is why I do think Zach Evans is being overlooked compared to Jamaica Gibbs, and obviously and a number one who is probably the standout number one. But everything I've just said about Zach Evans translates over to Jamaica Gibbs. I think Jamaica Gibbs does everything slightly better, but they are very similar in the way that they play. Jamaica Gibbs is quick, but not explosively quick. He can't pass protect. I think Bama will force that into him this year, but it's not his game because he is a smaller back. He's quite lean he's 5'11" and he is 200 pounds, but he looks like a smaller back.
Yeah.
He's got a small frame and he doesn't have the best strength. He is more of those, I'm going to make someone miss. I'm going to get through the hole. I'm going to cut around the side rather than I'm going to go through a defender. But everything I've seen from him at Georgia Tech, and I mean, Georgia Tech have had a couple of good years, but they're not on that level of some of these other teams where these running backs are playing. And now Gibbs is going to show what you can do behind this Bama line with Bryce Young as his quarterback. It is the perfect move for him, and it is why he is currently sat at 2, because he is so similar to Zach Evans for me, but he's got that Alabama extra onto him. Not just that he's playing for Bama, but that he's learning at Alabama, and we have seen what running backs come out of Alabama.
Exactly. I think it is the perfect move for him because I think he could improve his game. And this sounds like an obvious statement, but the fact he's at Alabama and not Georgia Tech, I think he will improve his game to a higher standard if he does progress purely because he is at Alabama. And I know that sounds like a really simple thing to say, but when we're talking about skill sets and improving things coming into the draft, this is exactly the thing you want to see as an NFL scout, that Jamaica Gibbs has gone out and moved to a better team because he knows that there's a better prospect there for him to get better. Because as a running back, you need to be into the NFL as good as you're going to get because you only really get 4 to 5 years. It's very rare we see running backs go into that second contract and then be great through that second contract. So, yeah, it's the perfect move all round. At 1 then, Ash, we've got Bijan Robinson, Texas Junior.
Yeah.
How good is Bijan Robinson? Why is he your number 1? He
is an elite level running back already, in my opinion. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got all of the points that you want from a running back. He's shown that in his freshman year, and then again in his sophomore year last year. He can do it all. He's quick. He's surprisingly quick for a guy with his build because he is one of those bigger running backs. But he is surprisingly quick. He can get the ball in the air. He can bulldoze a defender. He can make a defender miss. He just has absolutely everything you want from a running back, and a top level running back at that. As I say, I think he is probably already an elite level running back. Wherever he lands, he's going to walk in, and he's going to be the number 1 guy. And he's going to be the number 1 guy in college, barring some absolute miracle or disaster, shall we say.
Yeah.
I mean, he came out of high school as, well, he was a 5-star recruit. He was already being touted as the next best thing as a running back. He has shown that in his 2 years at Texas already, and he's got 1 more year here now to continue to show that. If he offers absolutely everything you want from a running back in all departments.
Did he get injured last year, or am I thinking of somebody else?
Didn't he hurt his shoulder, but missed like 1 game and then came back?
I definitely think.
Let's have a look. He missed.
Or am I thinking of somebody else?
He did. He dislocated his elbow.
Oh.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he didn't. He got there. I think I know what you're thinking about. There was 1 play where he got absolutely. I think he got like flipped up in the air or something like that, and it looked like he was like severely injured, and he was back like 2 games later. But but yeah, he did get hurt last year, but he didn't miss hardly any game time. And as I say, whenever he touches the field, he dominates with the ball. It's very rare that you see him get shut out in a game, regardless of who he comes up against.
Yeah, he is the clear-cut number one on this list, and
easily, yeah,
rightly
easily.
so. We've got some other notable players who are good running backs in their own right and just didn't make the top three. We've got Tank Bigsby from Auburn, has had an incredible couple of years. Obviously, this year is going to be hugely different for Auburn, and how Tank Bigsby is going to be a huge part of that, because he's probably their best player maybe at the moment, or if not one of their best players on offense. Devon Kane, Texas A&M. Did we have a conversation about how to pronounce his last name?
I think we did a while back. Yeah, it's like it's a Chan or something like that, isn't it? It's one of those. Yeah.
Well, the Devon fella from A&M. Is he freshman or sophomore? I think he's fairly, or is he a transfer? I want to say
no. He'll be a junior. He's third year now.
I'm clearly thinking of somebody else. Deuce Vaughn at Kansas State. I mean, he's an incredible running back. Deuce
Vaughn was close to being 2 for me. Him, Gibbs, Evans, and I'd still say Tank Bigsby as well. Those 4 are all incredibly close in the running back position. You, much like the argument that we had about the number 3 quarterback slot, I think 2 to 6 are all very close, in my opinion, for running backs at the moment. There's some guys I haven't even mentioned on here that are also up there as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've also got Eric Gray from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And Zach Charbonnet from UCLA. Is Eric Gray the Tennessee transfer? Did we decide that?
Eric Gray is a transfer.
Or did he come from Clemson?
No, I think he did come from Tennessee. So he's definitely a transfer, but I can't remember.
I'm sure we've talked about him and looked him up, and he's in an orange.
He was, Tennessee. Yeah, he's transferred from Tennessee, but that's the little bit of unknown for me there with Eric Gray. Is the fact he's at Oklahoma. He offers pretty much everything we've seen from Gibbs and Evans, but just the fact that he's transferring over to Oklahoma, who are it's probably wrong to say in a transition, because they're not. They are still a top tier program, but they've lost a lot of big people at it, and obviously their head coach. So it all depends on how he's used there.
Yeah, and as you say, there's loads of other players that could easily have made this notable players list. But
yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's move to wide receiver. At 3, we've got Jordan Addison, transfer to USC. It would, of course, there's going to be a USC player in here somewhere, and Jordan Addison, didn't you say you've got him as your number 1 wide receiver in this class, Ash, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I did. When his transfer was announced, I said that it was incredibly close between the 3, but Addison was my number 1. I've gone back and looked at it, and I think 1 at the moment is just 1 has to be there, and then 2 and Jordan Addison. It's so incredibly close. There may be a bit of favoritism that is won out the second position over Addison, but that's no disrespect to Addison at all. I think he could have, obviously he couldn't, obviously wasn't eligible, but he could have gone into this draft class in 22 and be a starter day 1. I think he's a top tier wide receiver, and he would have I think he would have been well in consideration for the number 1 wide receiver this year. He's got elite athleticism. He's got deep line speed. He makes pretty much every catch you want. He can cut and change direction on a dime. He offers a combination of everything. The only slight issue I have with him, which people have proven it's not a great deal, it's not a massive problem at the next level, is he is smaller. He is a smaller framed wide receiver. He's 6 foot, 175 pounds. But we've shown wide receivers at that size have shown they can perform at the NFL. He is also still very young. I think he's 20. Was he 21? So yeah, he's still 20 at the moment. But he is still young. He's still got time to improve, and obviously on this USC offense, he's going to be the key man there, and he's going to have a lot of support and a top level quarterback behind him. He's only going to improve, and I think as I say, it's incredibly close between him and number 2 for me.
So in the initial opening statement, Ash, of your case here, we figured out who 1, 2, and 3 were.
Yeah, yeah,
pretty quickly. So at 2, we've clearly got Jackson Smith-Njigba, Ohio State junior. I think you are right. I don't know if you are right. I think the fact that these 3 are incredibly good is one thing. Do I think they could be flipped? I don't know. I have been watching a little bit of tape, and I definitely have your number 1 as my number 1 now.
Yeah.
And I've seen some stats and some mock drafts and stuff where he's going as high as 5th overall. So that for a wide receiver is frighteningly high in a class this good. But let's talk about Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Yeah.
What we saw at the end of last season when he just tore people apart, even with the presence of the 2 guys who got drafted, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
It just showed you only had to look at the bench that Ohio State were wielding out last year, their wide receiver bench, and you just thought 5-star, 5-star, 4-star, 5-star. And it continues along the same vein, whereas now Smith-Njigba is the number 1 guy. There isn't a Garrett Wilson or an Olave ahead of him. But he showed last year that it didn't matter if they were there as well, putting up historic numbers. He wanted to be part of the party, and this is good enough to be so.
Yeah, I think Smith-Njigba is I wouldn't say an anomaly, but he is a bit of a different sort of wide receiver because he has got the elite, exceptional technical abilities. He does everything in a wide receiver that you want him to do, but he doesn't have an elite athletic profile. He's quick, but he's not lightning quick. He's got good speed, I would say, more than he has elite level speed.
Do you know who he reminds me of? Not necessarily right now, but the way I've watched him play last season and what I've seen of him, his play reminds me exactly of first year Juju Smith-Schuster in the NFL. For that first year where he absolutely exploded for the Steelers. Mm-hmm. That's exactly how I see, like, my pro comp to him would be that year of Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, it is, and you hit it there. It's the explosive acceleration that he has. It's the get off the line that makes him so good, and he is quick when he gets in a straight line. I'd say he's not the quickest, but he has good enough speed to add to that to his size. And I've got it as a negative and a positive. He is now the guy there. Obviously, he was playing out the slot for most of his career because Olave and Wilson were there. He is now going to be that main outside threat for Ohio State. So it's going to be a massive year for him. I don't have any. I fully believe he's going to be able to back up what he's shown out of the slot. I have no concerns about that. But this is his year to show that he is one of the best wide receivers in this draft class. One thing, obviously, I mentioned about the speed, that he's not got the most athletic profile. There's concentration at times has been his downfall in games, but obviously not the Rose Bowl. He broke that record, 360 or 340 odd yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. But he has shown at times over his career at Ohio that he has drops in him, and it's not because of his hands. He's got great hands. It's more his concentration, I think, lets him down. That's something that he's going to need to improve on if he wants to be the number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it on there. And talking of the number 1 receiver, we've got Kayshon Boutte, LSU.
Yeah.
This is going to sound... LSU pump out top tier receivers, if we've seen the last few years. And it doesn't matter whether LSU are having a historic year like Joe Burrow did or a down year. Their receivers are elite. I don't know what they've got going on in the water down there.
Yeah, well,
But
it's crazy.
and obviously, he got injured last year, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he missed. I think he was quite a bad injury, if I'm not mistaken. It was. Yeah, so he had two surgeries on his ankle, which obviously meant he missed. He got injured in October, so he missed most of last season.
Yeah.
Um,
But I'm not going to say he's Jamar Chase because I think Jamar Chase is possibly going to be one of the best receivers for the next few years on a team that are going to use him correspondingly. So, but I think Keyshawn Butte has got everything that Jamar Chase can do. I think Butte can do as well.
I agree. I completely agree with you there. I think he's easily the most athletically gifted player in this draft class, if not over the last few years. He has absolutely everything you want: speed, acceleration. He's got the size. What is he? He's 6 foot and 200 pounds, but he's a big 200 pounds. He's got he's got that frame, and then he's got the speed and acceleration and the hands to go alongside that, and one of the best route running in this class as well. Literally my only concern with him is how bad that injury was last year. It was an injury that saw him miss the whole year and have to have 2 surgeries on it. Obviously, we've seen people come back from worse and still perform, but it has to be something that people need to keep in the back of their mind. Are we going to see the Keyshawn Butte this year with that injury, or is he going to maybe take it easy and wait his time for the draft?
Well, it would be a very LSU move for him to follow in the footsteps of Jamar Chase and taking it easy and heading up in the draft. But everything you said about Keyshawn Butte was absolutely spot on. The thing when I watch the tape of him, it's effortless. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He everything is smooth. Everything is controlled. And it's effortless, but it is explosive effortless. He doesn't look lethargic or lazy with it. It's just honed. Everything he does is honed. And I think as a wide receiver prospect, he is top tier. He could go top 5.
I don't see how he can get much better either. His game, I think he is that good already. I can't see how he could be any better.
I don't think he can improve to make his game better.
No.
I think the only way he could improve is through having an unbelievable year and increasing his draft stock through a good year. I think if you were going to draft a player on talent, he's as good as he's going to get.
Oh yeah, I would be shocked if he is not top 5. I would be generally shocked that if he doesn't go top 5. It's literally just the injury. That is my only concern. I think every other aspect of his game is almost flawless. Everyone has their issues. Like on the tape that I've watched, on the rare, like sometimes he can drop the ball, and I think that's over concentration, like in Smith and Jigba.
Yep.
But it's absolutely minor. There is almost it's probably not the best thing to say, but there's not really anything wrong with his game at all. It's just this injury that concerns me.
Well, let's see if Chip Kelly can draw out the best season of Keyshawn Butte, because that is hugely possible. Hugely possible. Right, we've got some notable players we've got to get through, Ash. Marvin Mims, Oklahoma, had a great year last year, is a really good receiver in his own right. Josh Downs, UNC, one of the only bright sparks for UNC last year, could have a superb year this year. I'm going to skip that guy because I'm coming back to him. Jermaine Burton, Alabama. He's not a name I'm hugely au fait with, Ash. Is that because of the names, or is he a transfer?
No, he is a transfer from Georgia. He got very little time at Georgia. He came in at 4-star recruit, highly anticipated, and just didn't get the chance at Georgia. the year they had last year, you can't really be surprised. But he's now going to Alabama, and is already going to be stepping in as arguably the number one wide out there.
Yeah, Quinton Johnson from TCU is another name to watch out for. And the next two players, Ash, Talia Tungavailoa has got some weapons down at Maryland. Deontay Dumas and Rakim Jarrett. If Tungavailoa has a bad year, he is not like his brother for the NFL, surely.
No, I know. Like it's rare to see Maryland as a team that have got two top level wide receivers. Rakim Jarrett's been spoken about since his freshman year as one when he eventually hits the draft being one of the top recruits. He's taken a slight downturn in the last couple of years, and I don't think it's through any fault of his own. Obviously, the 2020 impact that we saw him only play 4 games because of COVID didn't help. Last year, he played every game. I think he played all 13 games and 829 yards, but only 5 touchdowns. But again, it's the quarterback has not been the best. Tagovailoa for Maryland has really got to step up, but he's got the weapons here in Rakim Jarrett and Deontay Dumas, definitely, and they are equally as good as each other. I think it's probably a coin flip as to which one of these two is the better wide receiver at the moment. This year will probably dictate that.
Yeah, plenty to watch out for the Terrapins, that's for sure. Right, tight end, Ash. Quick question.
Yeah.
Your first notable player is Jahleel Billingsley. Is he still at Alabama or is he transferred?
I thought he was still at Alabama. I'm pretty sure he is still there. No, he's gone to Texas. There we go.
I don't know if that changes anything, but
no, it doesn't change anything. No.
I'm sure I thought it was Texas, but I didn't want to say anything and make 2 errors. In fact, he hadn't transferred and it wasn't Texas. But
no, he has indeed transferred.
Yeah. At 3, we've got another Alabama, or the Alabama tight end now, Cameron Lattu.
Yes. So 2 and 3 were really difficult for me to decide between for the tight end position for 2023. Cameron Lattu gets it for me. I think what he's shown in limited capacity at Alabama it gives it here for me because he is a good blocker as well. I was looking through his stats. He didn't give up any pressure or any sacks when he was being the blocker as a tight end. I think he can move the chains very well with his in the passing game. He is quick off the line. He's good in traffic in terms of the catching in traffic and also being able to use his size to stop defenders getting the ball away from him. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. And as I say, he has the blocking game to add to what is good passing game for a guy that size. The only slight concerns for me here is his movement, his body movement. He isn't the most fluid of movers when it comes to a tight end that we expect to see from a pass catching tight end. I think possibly at the next level and even this year, we are going to see a good pass catching red zone threat that can offer a decent amount in the blocking game. But he needs to improve his overall movement for him to really reach that level of the next level.
Yep. So at 2, you've got Sam Laporta from Iowa.
Yeah.
Why did he sneak Cam Lattu?
Because Iowa love their tight ends. You always get good tight ends out of Iowa. It's just what happens. No, he's he just on paper and on tape, he's just got that little bit extra for me. He's quick off the snap. He's got good speed for a tight end, and for his size, 6'4", 240, nearly 250 pounds. He tracks the ball very well. You see him when he is in the middle on those quick slants and on the intermediate slants and routes that he's tracking the ball. He's ready to move his body and to adjust to those balls that are not necessarily where they're supposed to be going. He's got good hands. He's got those hands. He doesn't need to bring the ball into his body to catch it. He can catch it with his hands, which is something you love to see from any receiver, whether it's a running back, wide receiver, or tight end. There's always a slight concern for players that need to bring it into their body. Laporta doesn't do that. He catches it out of his body, and as I say, he's quick off the snap. He doesn't offer as much in the blocking game. He can block when called upon, but he is more of a pass receiving tight end. Again, it comes down to he's got decent size to be for a passing tight end, but he doesn't have that frame for a blocking tight end. But he can do it when called upon, and he did do it for a number of times for Iowa over the last 2 years.
Okay. At 1, we've got Michael Mayer, Notre Dame. It's one of their significantly best pass catchers. Am I right?
Yeah, easy number 1 in this current group of tight ends. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen throughout the rest of the year, but as it stands at the moment, I think Michael Mayer is the clear number 1 tight end in this group and in college in general. In my opinion, I think he's the clear number 1. His route running is incredibly polished and crisp for a tight end. And his size and speed makes him a nightmare for defenders to cover. I think he's too quick for linebackers and too big for secondaries. He's got great hands in terms whether it's in contested catches or open play. He's got good top level speed. He's not elite, and that's unsurprising to for any tight end to have elite level speed, but he has got good top tier speed for a tight end, and he's a great athlete all round. The way he positions himself on the line of scrimmage and the initial impact and the engagement that he makes with a defender, he has that strength and hand placement and cut speed to get away from a defender at the line of scrimmage and make himself open. There isn't. From a tight end prospect, there isn't much that concerns me here. He is more a passing game weapon than a blocking tight end. But that is what we want now. That is what we see at the NFL level. The tight ends are being incorporated more and more into the passing game. That the blocking work is a second factor. But like the other 2 guys, he is still good in the blocking game and performs admirably at that when called upon.
Yeah, like you just hit the nail on the head when talking about the blocking game. We've seen it the last 2 draft years. The tight ends coming out are not considered blocking prospects if they are an offensive weapon. You seem to either get the pass catching tight end or the blocking tight end, and there isn't it's very rare now we get a prospect who can do both to an elite level. I mean, Kyle Pitts is considered one of the generational talents in the pass catching game of recent years, and there wasn't a knock on his blocking game, but he wasn't considered elite at it.
Yeah. So. I think another, just a final point that I missed on Michael Mayer that I've got written down here is his ball protection when it comes to in the passing game. Once he has collected the ball, he is already ready for that initial impact from a defender. The ball is in his body and protected to absorb. He's taken some massive hits in the middle of the field over the last 2 years, and he rarely loses the ball. He incomplete or drops the ball. It's just he's the most well-rounded tight end by quite a distance, in my opinion, in this draft class and in college at the moment.
Other notable tight ends, we've got Quinn Ewer's latest weapon, Jalal Billingsley, Dalton Kincaid from Utah, Will Mallory from Miami, Austin Stogner from South Carolina, and Eric Gilbert, Georgia. Now, the one guy I was going to mention there, Ash, is Eric Gilbert from Georgia, because don't they have a tight end? Isn't their tight end like one of these generational guys, like a Kyle Pitts? What's his name?
They've got Darnell Washington.
No.
Darnell Washington. That was
who was the guy who balled out in the Natty? Brock.
Brock Bowers. Sorry,
Brock
Bowers. Yeah, you're right. And I think that everything I've put him on I've put Eric Gilbert on the tight ends, but everything I'm seeing and hearing so far is that he is going to be predominantly used as a wide receiver for Georgia. That seems to be the way it's going for him. If he even steps on the field, obviously we've seen what he's done for the last couple of years. So it remains to be seen. But yeah, you're right. I think I've put him on here, but realistically, obviously Brock Bowers, if he was eligible, and Darnell Washington are their tight ends this year.
Super. Ash, you've got about 4.5 minutes to talk offensive line.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have to split it, aren't we? Because
it's standard procedure.
I mean, to be honest, it's probably a good thing because, as you say, defense always gets left behind. So having its own separate show is
needs to be showcased.
Exactly.
And there's no point in shoehorning all these positions into an hour's worth of podcast when we've clearly got stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Let's finish the offense off. We're on to offensive line. At 3, you've got Jackson Kirkland from Washington. Who's a tackle?
Yes, he is indeed. And I thought he was going to come out I thought he was coming out in 2020 too. He decided to obviously stick around for another year at Washington. I think it's probably going to be. Injuries are a concern. He's had some injury issues, including last year in the past. So if he has a good, healthy year at Washington, it's going to do him a world of favors. He has added a bit more weight onto him this year to maybe counteract those injury issues that he's had. But he's a big offensive tackle. He's 6'7", and I think he's going to be coming in at about 320 pounds now. The things I like about him, and that's put him at number 3 for me, is his versatility. He can play in both guard and tackle, and he is one of the best pass blocking linesmen in college football at the moment. He's given up minimal sacks in his career. I think in his freshman year, he gave up 1 sack. In his sophomore year, 1 sack. He didn't give up a single. Obviously, it was only 4 games in 2020, but he didn't give up a sack. And then last year, he played in 10 games and he gave up 3 sacks. All from the left tackle, and I think he played a bit of time at right guard as a freshman, which is obviously back onto the versatility. But he is, as I say, one of the best pass blockers. He's got the versatility, and he also, in terms of his actual technical ability for a tackle and for a guard, he's got his hand placement is top tier. He gets the hands underneath the defensive linesman's pads to move them. Those of you that have listened to us in the past when I've spoken about offensive linemen, there we go. Stocks is doing it there. Is obviously not grabbing them, but using your palms and pushing up into their pads to sort of dictate how you move them. He's brilliant at that. He's got quick hands. He's got good arm length to dictate the movement of the defensive lineman. And as I say, in the passing game, he's quick enough to be able to react to those edge rushers and get into position and not allow them to beat them on the corner.
That's just another reason to watch the video show, Rush Nation. Come see me practice my offensive line hand replacement. At 2, you got Peter Scoronsky from Northwestern. Pop quiz, Ash. Do you know Northwestern's nickname?
I do not. What is their nickname?
I don't know. That's why I've asked. Because I was thinking the entire time, I'm thinking, what are Northwestern called? And
yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what their nickname is.
Northwestern Wildcats, Eagles.
They are. think you're right. I think they are the Wildcats. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Northwestern Wildcats.
There we go. I knew it was in there.
But yeah, Peter Scoronsky, tackle. I would say at the next level, he will be a tackle. He's played his freshman and his sophomore year as the left tackle for Northwestern. For me, what gives him that added edge over Jackson Kirkland at the moment is his athleticism. He is quick to react to those quicker rushes, but at the same time, he's got that power to not be bullied by the bigger defensive tackles. He's quick on his feet and to place himself. He's quick out of his stance and with good footwork in the pocket and also in the screen game. Northwestern incorporate a lot of screen plays into their offense, and Scoronsky is one of the best in terms of getting out and being ready in the screen game to make an impact. And I think there is no real issues with his blocking technique at the moment. The only slight concerns I have with him is he has got slightly smaller arms, which at the next level could potentially impact him. And he can be slightly too aggressive when it comes to engaging with a defender, which will then put him off balance and allow him to be moved. But it's minimal. I'd be very surprised if he is not the top tackle in the 23 draft class.
Ash, when you talk about small arms, are we talking about length?
Yes, the length. Yes, yeah,
okay.
The length of his arms too, as we mentioned earlier about engaging with the defender. Just that extra second that it might take for him to engage over a defensive lineman who will already be swatting and swiping at his arms. That just the arm length can sometimes have a hindrance to a tackle and a guard.
There we go. Just another knowledgeable tidbit from our former lineman. And then finally, at number 1, Paris Johnson Jr., a Buckeye. Shock.
A Buckeye, yeah.
Who's a guard.
But he is a guard. And I'm probably not alone here in saying that Paris Johnson's the best offensive lineman in this draft class in 2023. I mean, to be honest with you, it's not an unbelievable draft class. There are some good talents. These 3 guys that I've spoken about and a few more, but it isn't that top tier that we've seen over the last few years, at least at the moment. Things could change in the next year, certainly, but it's not the standout class that we usually expect to see. The reason that Johnson is the number 1 for me, regardless of him being whether it's tackle or guard, he is definitely a guard for Ohio and for me at the next level. He's predominantly played out of right guard, but he has taken some snaps at left guard as well. He is very smart when it comes to reading the defense and the way they're lining up. But he is also an aggressive and a nasty player. He loves the impact and the engagement with the defensive lineman. And he has got incredible athleticism for a guy his size, 6'6", 320 pounds, I believe he is. So he's tall. He's a taller guy for a guard, but he's got that athletic profile to back that up, especially in the pass protection. He gets out of his stance and into his stance incredibly quickly and well. And all of his fundamentals and his techniques are on point almost every snap. He has given up. I think he's given up 1 sack in 3 years or 2 years at Ohio, and I think he's only given up 1 quarterback hit as well from his position. So he's incredibly smart and quite clearly the top guard and offensive lineman for me at the moment.
That was a whole load of homerisms right there. I think no,
no, not on this one. I think he's the most NFL ready as it stands right now for me in the offensive lineman.
No, that's absolutely fair enough. Actually, last year Zion Johnson was a tackle or a guard?
Zion tackle. Zion Zion Johnson.
Yeah.
So, guard. Sorry, I'm getting confused because
No, the only reason I brought it up is because one of our notable players is called Zion Nelson. He's
Yes,
from Miami. There must be
that's-
something in the name Zion that makes a good offensive lineman.
that's why you confused me, because Zion Nelson's a tackle, and that's what. And he's the first person on the notables, so I thought that's who we were talking about. No, Zion Johnson was a guard. Zion Nelson in this year is a tackle, and he's very close to Jackson Kirkland here for me. It was a toss up between those two as it stands at the moment for the number 3.
Okay, cool. No, you can tell we've gone past an hour. The tangents are coming thick and fast here, and just unnecessary information. Former running back, Colorado running back Jarrett Patterson is re-entering and is now. No, I'm joking. Jarrett Patterson, Notre Dame, another top center.
Yeah, he's the number 1 center at the moment.
Is he as good as the center who was the top center who just went, whose name is completely vaporized from?
No, I wouldn't say so. Linderbaum, no, he's not as good as Linderbaum. He would have been number 2 in this draft class if he had entered.
Okay, cool. Then we've got Broderick Jones from Georgia, Layden Robinson from Texas A&M, and Emil Ekiyor Jr. from Alabama. Apologies, Emil, if I murdered your last name there. Of that list, Ash, how close were any of those to getting in your top 3, apart from obviously Zion Nelson, who you said had a chance?
Yeah, Zion Nelson. Broderick Jones for Georgia for me, obviously, unsurprisingly, had an exceptional year last year for Georgia, as did all of the Georgia players. I think he's very close along with Nelson. You could, again, Kirkland, Nelson, and Jones. You could have a toss up between who is behind Scoronsky as the next best tackle. For me, Kirkland's game overall is just that little bit better. I just want to see some more from Broderick Jones. But if Georgia have another year like they did last year, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in contention as the top tackle overall.
Well, there we have it, Rush Nation. Ash and I have managed to split one show into 2 once again. That's the offensive side of the 2023 draft eligible players, top players from their positions covered off. Ash, we're going to have to come back in the defensive side of things. I'm pretty pleased about that because I like defensive players and I think they deserve more kudos. I'm also going to try and move away from saying the skill position, because I think every position is a skillful position, and I don't think the offensive players deserve all the merits, because playing corner is just as difficult and as skillful as playing wide receiver.
Yeah, and I mean, arguably the top non-quarterback player is on the defensive side for next year as well, and maybe even the best player in college.
Listen, you don't have to ram that home. I'm fully sitting here. Hi, my name's Chris, and I've got a problem. Yeah, we're going to be back, Rush Nation, to do the defensive side of things. Ash and I have already penciled in a date to do the next podcast, which will now have to be pushed because of the impending defensive top players, but that is not a problem at all. Anything else? Any last notes, Ash, we've missed off today's show?
No, I think we've covered everything pretty well on the offensive side, at least anyway.
Yep, no defensive player was harmed in the making of this production. If you are out in the sunshine this week, Rush Nation, don't forget to use your suntan lotion because it is going to be very hot and the UV rays will be high. We don't want anybody getting burnt this close to summer. Keep skin safe. It is vitally important. If you're heading down to the pub, enjoy yourselves. I'm hugely jealous. Ash, I know you will be doing both of those things, so enjoy your time out and about, drinking the cans or whatever it is you are getting up to. Let me know how you're getting on. Rush Nation, until the end of the week, when we're back with the defensive players and the best player in college football, Will Anderson, we will touch on him at the end of the week. Saturdays are for Rushing 2.